Okay, it is Wednesday, March 10th, and this is the Audit Committee meeting. We're starting this meeting at 5:34 p.m. Stephanie, do you want to just read off everybody who's present at the meeting for the record?
Sure. This evening we have Commissioner Link present, Commissioner Wright, Commissioner Edwards, Commissioner Davenport, Commissioner Myers, and Commissioner Thornton.
Okay. Does anybody want to make a motion to approve last month's minutes?
So moved.
Anyone want a second?
Oh, second.
Second.
On favor? Aye.
Aye.
All right. Let's go ahead and get to
We have
business.
January to approve as January. We held that until this meeting.
Okay. So we just approved last month's minutes, the February 10th minutes.
So moved. January 27th.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. All right. Stephanie, do you want to go ahead and give us your reports?
Sure. Multitasking over here. The status of the work plan is I'm in the home stretch and that is coming along great. The vacancies in the office, I've completed the revisions of the job description and submitted those to the HR department, and they will try to fast forward the process to have that evaluated and put on the agenda for discussion with the manager's office. And the internal controls risk assessment, I had a conversation with Chair Higgins from the Overview Commission, and she offered some thoughts about the ACC risk assessment. And it is, I wasn't surprised. I also felt the comments that she made. It's a top-down approach, and the questions were pretty basic the first year, and immediately I knew that some questions would be tweaked. Her biggest concern was it was hard to evaluate the risk without, established internal controls, and in some references, it's futile to evaluate the risk if we don't have any established internal controls. And so she heavily recommended the internal controls, the establishment or development of the internal controls to begin immediately so that they will tie into the risk assessment, and they should tie into the strategic plan that you approve on an annual basis. And to measure that should tie in with the department's performance measures. Mm-hmm. It should be a circle, and it starts with what are we expected to do? And that is the internal controls by department. And there are some internal controls that should be established for the organization. And then the risk assessment comes in behind to evaluate how well departments are doing with compliance of the internal controls. And then after that, there's a comparison or a presentation to the committee about how well are departments in compliance with the internal controls and meeting the goals and objectives that you set for your strategic plan. And then the last piece is identifying, I just totally forgot my train of thought. There's a fourth piece, but it's a circle. So the last piece after the evaluation of internal controls, the risk assessment is to determine, have the levels of risk changed from the previous year. She did recommend a risk assessment and an evaluation of internal controls annually. And she felt very strongly about that.
Okay. So I'm anticipating this is going to be a short meeting. I had a conversation with the mayor this morning about our agenda item to talk about the structure, role, and responsibilities of the Audit Committee, and I forwarded y'all that information, which is a lot of really dense information. And the mayor has decided that he is going to charge the Government Operations Committee with discussing a restructuring of the Audit Committee. It's the charge of the Audit Committee and possibly the office of the operational analysis itself. So there's not a whole lot of need for us to do much more than offer a broad recommendation to the mayor requesting a restructuring of the committee to include citizens. I would suggest we simply offer a recommendation, a formalized recommendation to the mayor requesting that the Government Operations Committee consider a newly structured audit committee that is made up of a majority of citizens. And then that committee can determine qualifications for citizen members, precise number of members, how many commissioners, how large that majority is. How do y'all feel about that?
Melissa,
Yeah.
Before we move on to that, I didn't realize that Kelly, the mayor, had sent us out like the assignments of each of our committees, and I really want to stick with our assignment, which is to recommend the annual audit work plan to the mayor and commission and to review progress on the approved work plan elements. And I would really like to have an update before we go into a new topic on where the details. We usually get the work plan, the status report. And so I would, before we move to a new topic, I really would like to hear where we are on fleet management program audit and where we are on animal control. I didn't hear the update on that.
I'm in the home stretch of completing both reports, and the end is going well, the formatting and all of that. And so I anticipate wrapping those 2 reports up soon.
Chair Ling, are you asking for a motion, or what are you asking for? I mean, the mayor charged GOC. What do you want us to do now?
Well, I will propose that we make a formal recommendation to the mayor that the Government Operations consider a restructuring of the audit committee to include a majority of citizens on that committee. A majority of qualified citizens. And then the GOC can, take that and make determinations on the specifics of that. Does anyone have any objections or discussion to that?
Well, there's no motion.
Well, I guess what I would say is that it's not out of our committee. It's kind of out of our committee assignment, and we haven't studied it.
Well, there's no motion. There's nothing to debate. Somebody needs to make a motion.
Well, first of all, I'll let you know, I talked to the mayor and he asked me to make that formal, to have the committee make a formal recommendation to him.
Madam Chair, I know I'm not on the committee, but I'm kind of going back to Commissioner Wright's comment and also which would follow with Commissioner Edwards' point. Have we covered the 3 points under all business?
Yes.
So I'm asking, and so then I heard Commissioner Wright ask a question, and it went by so fast from me. I'm just trying to figure out, Commissioner Wright, was your question answered? I guess that's what I'm asking.
Well, not in the typical manner that we answer it, that it's answered. I'm looking at a audit status report from December 2019, and we get a completion date forecast on these. And I guess I was looking for something more concise in the audit report status, something more concise than wrapping it up, since
So I guess my point is, and again, I know I'm not a voting member. From what I understood from Auditor Maddox is that she's still working on it. She didn't, she's still working on that. Is that enough for you so we can move on to Commissioner Link's recommendation and Commissioner Edwards' point about a motion?
Well,
is that enough? If that's okay with you?
Well, and I would like the minutes to reflect this, because the minutes talk about, there was an update, but it doesn't give us the information. And since we're not getting a audit status report to reflect that, if we could just have whatever that description is, if that would be included in the minutes.
We did get an audit
status report. Yeah.
Today?
I thought I saw one.
It's attached to the invitation.
I saw it.
Yeah. I saw the status report.
Okay. All right. And when I asked for that in the email, I apologized in advance for if it was stuck in there. I went through it all. So yeah,
it is there. I guess that's my point.
Okay.
Yeah, and I wanted to follow up on that too. On that, Allison, I wanted to follow up on the same point, because it just as a new member here, if those reports, it actually still says February on them for those reports, but should we then expect Stephanie to get those reports to review before our next meeting? Would they be coming in the next couple of weeks then? I mean, just so I understand with my workflow.
I want to get back to that when we're talking about scheduling our next meeting, because I think we'll be scheduling our next meeting based on when those plans are ready, those audits are ready to be reviewed by this committee.
Okay.
So we may not even have a meeting next month if those products aren't ready for us to offer feedback on. We'll get back to that in discussing our next meeting.
Well, Madam Chair, I'm clear now. I think that all the questions from me, from other commissioners, are answered, and I would like to, whatever the process would be, agree with Commissioner Edwards.
Madam Chair, just a quick question. Does it once the audits are done, don't they have to go to the manager's office for 30-day review and then come back to us?
Well, yeah, but we're also tasked with seeing a draft of those. When that draft goes to the manager's office, we're supposed to get a draft as well, so we at least know, what the original status of the audit is. And in that 30 days. The department will be responding, and then we'll also see that the responses and the final product. So there are a couple more stages before an audit is complete, where we see versions of it and offer feedback. So we wouldn't have our next meeting until one of those stages. We're at one of those stages.
So Madam Chair, then, going through the process that you just mentioned, that has nothing to do with what you were presenting. So that's going to happen no matter what.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, we'll get back to discussing that when in figuring out the next meeting.
I will make a motion, okay. Melissa. I will make a motion that we recommend, or we can work on the wording here, to the mayor, that we put together a committee or send it to government operations to review and redefine the purpose and scope of the audit committee and restructure the membership as decided upon by that committee.
Does anyone want to second that?
I just want some clarification. You're just agreeing with the mayor's decision to have this looked at. We're not trying to send any formula ahead.
Well, he did request a formal recommendation from this committee, to kind of back. I mean, this idea has been discussed for months, and we've discussed it with the mayor, and Carol and I've discussed it. We've discussed it in this committee. The mayor just asked me to have this committee make it a formal recommendation, and he fully intends to move that task forward to the GovOps committee. So does anybody want to second that motion?
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Well, there has to be debate first.
Discussion.
Yeah. Does anybody else want to discuss?
Well, I wanted to be clear that I do agree that it should move ahead and be assessed through government operations, but I don't agree with us sending a template with it. I mean, especially since Melissa, you're going to be on there, Russell's going to be on there, and Patrick's going to be on there. I would rather stick with our mission, which is keeping on track. And I apologize for not finding the status report, but thanks for having that included. I don't want to be a part of recommendation. I want to recommend that it gets looked at, but I don't want to send any preconceived ideas about it.
Well, he did ask for, a formalized recommendation that was fairly broad. And I think what Carol just stated is quite broad.
Yeah, I think it could be broad because it can just be to recommend that the audit committee's purpose and scope be reviewed and redefined, and that includes the consideration of restructuring of the committee members. I think that's fine to leave it fine because I have looked at the literature that we've been reviewing here, and every piece of literature that I look at on audit committees has the need for some independent members on it. So I think that's going to be, pretty basic if you do any research once it gets to government ops.
Again, I think that if we have information that can enlighten the GOC or anybody else, it's still their option of if they even use it. They don't need to start from scratch. I think the broader it is, but I don't think that we're talking about this is what we want and we just want you to sign off on it. I don't get that feeling. I think we got information. This will help define or redefine the audit committee and give us and give the group some broad information, but be able to have some. They may just be reference points. So I don't think that this is. I think this is a great idea. I wish I could vote for it.
And know that Russell and Patrick and I are on that committee, are on that GovOps committee, so we can bring forward some of the discussions that have come out of this committee in that discussion. And certainly, we'll certainly be sharing the information that I did share with y'all. So, I don't think we need to specify the number on a committee or anything, but I think Carol's motion is quite broad.
Okay, so repeat the motion so I'll know whether I want to be for or against it so we can move it forward.
Okay, and I hadn't muted before, so you heard a little baby in the background screeching or talking, whatever she does at this age. Okay, so I'm making a motion that we're making a motion that the the audit committee, let me start again. We're making a motion that we recommend that the mayor send a charge to the government operations committee to reevaluate and redefine the purpose and scope of the audit committee, as well as to consider restructuring the committee as decided upon by that research or restructuring.
Are we ready for a vote now?
I just have one question, Madam Chair.
Sure.
So GOC already has some items on the plate. So if we do not send, if we don't get this done in ample time, what will happen to the audit committee now, currently?
I mean, we'll keep meeting as is. We will keep meeting and checking in with those reports as is.
Okay.
You know, and if those reports are wrapped up and submitted to the full commission, I mean, this committee is not being disbanded. This committee would not be disbanded until the mayor actually disbands it upon, you know, appointing a new committee.
Thank you.
So we'll just continue as is until there's a new structure presented. So yeah, are we ready for a vote? All in favor?
Aye.
Any objections?
I'm a nay.
Okay. I want to get back to we're and talking about when we're going to meet again. You know, we really don't need to meet until we have an audit report to discuss. So I will ask the auditor to that when she forwards the report to manager, that either of the two reports that are underway, once they get forwarded to the manager, we'll have some discussion as to when we can, you know, we probably should have a couple weeks to look at those reports and schedule a meeting for a couple weeks after that report has been forwarded. So we'll have a chance to look at it, and then we'll be awaiting the responses. So we'll probably meet a month after that to take a look at the responses and discuss those.
Madam Chair, I have a question. Do we have to wait for both reports to be completed, or if she gets one done before the other?
I think it's too much for us to discuss two reports in a single meeting. I mean, whichever report is completed and forwarded to the manager first, we'll discuss that one first, get that one out of the way, and then move on to the other one when that one's moved along. Does that make sense to y'all?
Yes.
So I'd say that we just hold off on setting a date for a meeting until we have a clear idea of exactly when that report will have been forwarded, and we have a couple weeks to kind of read it and digest it before we come together to discuss it. Does that make sense, Stephanie?
I have it down.
Okay.
And Chair Link, I think that makes sense. We've been real flexible and, you know, in making our meeting to when we can be as productive as possible. So yeah. I'll make sure that I'm flexible to what might come forward, so we can maybe drop in a meeting as needed, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, and hopefully, I mean, hopefully that will be next month. You know, it sounds like these reports are at a near completion state, you know, to the point where they'll be forwarded to the departments and the manager very soon. So it could be sooner than we expect. But yeah, I just want to make that clear for everyone. So we're not going to set a hard date for a meeting. We're going to wait and see when these reports are ready for discussion.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
Oh. Yeah. Hey, this is Blaine. I'm on the phone. And just before coming on this call, I learned that Auditor Maddox, you had requested from HR salary and benefit information for all full-time employees by employee.
It's a salary spreadsheet. Mm-hmm.
So I just, you know, trying to prioritize work, is that related to any of your pending or your audit program work program, or is that something?
It's something that used to be provided to the auditor's office for reference as a courtesy. The last 2 or 3 years I've had to request it, and it's just, there's no rush on it. I don't have any immediate need to review the report, but it's a report that's valuable for me to review, and I refer to it with every audit.
Okay. All right. Thank you for clarifying. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Absolutely. Mhm.
Okay. Is there anything else anyone wants to add before we make a motion to adjourn?
I make that motion.
Anyone want a second?
Second.
All right. All in favor? Aye.
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 All right,
Record-
y'all.
Record time. Record time.
Return.
I'll draft up that formal recommendation and send it out to y'all just to make sure we got it right before I move it on to the mayor.
Mhm.
Who seconded the, sorry, who seconded that motion to adjourn?
Edwards.
Thank you very much.
Okay. All right, y'all.